If Michigan played a spring game and nobody saw it on the day of, did it really happen? Well, that's for you to decide. Kind of an uneven performance in some ways, somewhat to be expected. Certainly some things that looked very good, some things that maybe would have liked to have seen different things happen. Nonetheless, let's talk about it right here on this car episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Saturday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, just leaving the ground. Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. If you're watching, you can see the redness from a little bit. I mean, you can tell that I forgot to take Benadryl before going on the field. My field allergy. That's fun. Got to witness the spring game where the blue team beat the Maize team 17-0. The Wink Martindale-led Maize team. So what that tells you, number one, is that the offense is better on at least the half squad, the blue team. It's better than Ohio State and Alabama because Wink held them to 10 and 13 points respectively. I joke, don't get mad, Buckeyes and Crimson Tide fans. It is what we call humor. And use, well, it's not funny. Well, I don't care what you think as far as that's concerned. Anyway, definitely did not kind of see what I had expected to see, having talked to one of the coaches before the game. Definitely thought we were going to see a sharper Bryce, but it's one of those things where this is the biggest crowd he played in front of, is 40 to 45,000 people in the stands, and it was a little uneven. But you have to keep in mind it's a split squad, right? He doesn't have his the full offensive line, doesn't have his full complement of wide receivers. Donovan McCulley was on the other team. He did have Andrew Marsh and Jamar Browder, and I don't really think that those guys really came up big. Marsh had a really big catch. A couple went through Browder's hands that I think he just kind of mistimed some of the leaps that he made. But when it came down to it, we saw some really, really good things in terms of decision making, in terms of arm strength. There was one point where Bryce was on his own 45 and I'm standing in the opposite end zone. He threw it and it hit the back wall in the end zone, attempting to hit Channing Goodwin. So that's what, that's more than a 65-yard pass because it hit the back wall, right? So it basically is that 70-yard throw. Really impressive in terms of arm strength and everything. I didn't think that his receivers helped him out that much. There were a couple plays where it didn't look like he really had the right trajectory there. But overall, you could kind of really see exactly what I saw from him in high school. Just a different type of deal, going up against a much more difficult defense to go up against. And I think the Maize team had some, they had Rayshon Benny. They had I'm trying to remember who else they had up front. Ike Awana. They had TJ Guy, right? The first play from scrimmage, Bryce got, quote, sacked, right? And it was fast. Took the ball, gets back there, sack. But the final play of the game was an 88-yard touchdown to Jalen Hoffman from Bryce. Bryce threw it about 20 to 35 yards in the air. Couldn't quite tell the yard markers watching the replay, but it was one where it was well played through the air, definitely had some distance, and then Jalen Hoffman got to the sidelines and went upfield. That is not just encouraging. I understand Jalen Hoffman is not a guy that anyone's talking about, really, right? He's the backup fullback. However, this has become something of a trend because you see a lot of the videos coming out of practice. You see Jalen Hoffman frequently out there making plays. He's been the recipient of a lot of big passes in a lot of the videos that Michigan's released. And then today he was what Sharon Moore had as the MVP of the game, not just because of that play, but he had a couple really big plays, a couple really big catches and runs. So I think that was really good. The running backs, I thought both looked really good. We only saw them for a couple series each, Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. Justice Haynes' first carry went for 12 yards or something like that. It was really impressive, 11 yards. was really impressive straight out the gates. He had another one where he bounced it outside and made a play. We saw a couple really good runs from Jordan Marshall as well. The backups, because again, the spring game, you're not necessarily going to see a bunch of starters all the time. The backups, I thought, were very, very good. Bryson Kutzdahl was probably going to be my player of the game before Jalen Hoffman had his big long touchdown to finally end the spring game. So I was really encouraged just even by the depth there, and I'm curious to see what they end up doing in terms of, do they add someone as far as that's concerned. Both quarterbacks had some interceptions, so that's not necessarily great, right? So the fact that Bryce's interception to Tevis Metcalf was ill-advised, but so was Jaden Davis's interception by Jeremiah Lowe. Both of them were very bad decisions. Both of them were pressing. Both of them were kind of in a situational type of cadence there, right? Bryce had his right before the end of the first half. Jaden's trying to make something happen as the game is winding down and they have no points. So Bryce ended up having, by virtue of the 88-yard pass, ended up having just shy of 200-ish yards passing in the game. I don't know the stats. We're just going off of memory here. Jaden, I think, had sub 100 yards passing. So that's kind of where that is. So the offense did not necessarily have the look of one that we would look at and say, okay, we're in good shape here. But again, I'm not that concerned because of the split squad. Having talked to some of the coaches before and after, off the record, they feel really good about the wide receiver room in particular. I am going to amend what I was saying before, where I thought they might go for one, maybe two guys in the portal. I think that they're probably not going to. I think they're probably going to stand pat because they like what they have. I mean, we saw a really nice catch from Donovan McCulley. I mean, he is definitely a difference maker. He wasn't out there for that long, wasn't out there at all for the second half. So I think that they like what they've got in terms of the wide receiver group. And then keeping in mind Kendrick Bell, who's been injured and is just coming back from his surgery that he had in January. So I think you add more size and more capability, especially in this offense. Some of these guys are raring to go as far as that's concerned. Didn't have many big plays in this game, where it feels like the last couple spring games have been low-scoring affairs, but with some big plays on both sides. We didn't really have that in this, and that kind of speaks a lot to the defense. So let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. We'll get to that here in just a moment. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Plus, you can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? Well, a Fire TV Stick device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take you or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. You can't see it as much as I can feel it. I can see a little bit of the swelling in my cheeks, the redness, the hard to breathe part. That's where it's fun. I wish I knew what I was allergic to. Anyhow, the defense, very impressive, right? It gave up a grand total of 10 points from either team until the last play of the game. Have to rewatch it next week to see about any coverage busts or what have you. But I mean, they just got after it, man. A couple of those guys really, really looked very, very good. Defensive line in particular, to me, the most impressive was Nichols, who had 2 sacks. One of them was credited to Lugard and Akapai, but I to my eyes, it was Dom Nichols. Just these guys are impossible to block. And that's where it's like you kind of look at the offensive line and you say, which one is it? I'm more inclined to feel like it's a situation where the defensive line is just that good. And listen, I've been saying it for a while here. I feel like this is a defensive front. I don't know that there's a better front seven in the country. You've got 6 deep at defensive tackle. I thought we saw some really great things from Trey Williams early. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch to see. Again, it's hard to really watch a spring game in a lot of ways because you have to try to pay attention to both sides, right? But I have to go back and rewatch some of the other guys. But even Travis Moten, having talked to him, he was really happy about his game, some of the things that he was able to do in his first appearance, and that's a young guy that I'm very excited about. And just to know that like he's coming off the field being like, all right, this was awesome, this was great. So I'm excited to see what they're able to do as far as adding to the 6 in the interior. We definitely saw some good things from Derek Moore, TJ Guy, like I said, Dom Nichols, Cam Brandt. So that's just such a good place to be. And then the linebackers are just phenomenal. Just beyond enthused about what they have. And it's not just the top 2 guys, Jay Sean Barham, Ernest Hausman, Jimmy Rolder, Cole Sullivan. These are the guys to really look out for. I thought Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng showed off some speed. There were a couple plays where you could see him really making adjustments and having the right angles and having the speed to corral Jaden Davis when on this one particular play where he tried to take off. By the way, Jaden Davis, I feel like he still played very well. It's just that I think the defense was that good. There was a lot of points where we didn't necessarily see the pinpoint accuracy, but there were a lot of times where we saw pretty good accuracy. Maybe some little bit of riverboat gambling by the quarterbacks, both, right? Throwing into double coverage, that type of thing. But you saw the defensive backs make plays. And that I thought was at least a good sign, because that's a place where I am definitely concerned is who's going to emerge at defensive back. Shamari Earls, to me, was the most impressive defensive back that I saw out there. I don't know that you want your true freshman to be that guy, necessarily. But I do feel like he showed you something. His length definitely bothered some of the receivers. Saw him matched up against Jamar Browder on a couple of reps. No. It wasn't Jamar Browder. It was the other team. Who was it you had repped up against? I can't remember offhand. It wasn't Jamar. They were on the same team. But regardless, I saw him make some plays that I thought were really impressive. I think that if he can come along, that would mean something. But generally, it just kind of felt like everybody really stepped up to the plate defensively, and you could kind of see that. It wasn't like the first touchdown that got scored, which was in the second half, was a Micah Capana touchdown, where he was able to run right up the middle untouched. Okay, so it took until the last play of the game before the next touchdown even happened. Otherwise, there were a lot of plays where sometimes, like I said, Jamar Browder had some that went through his hands, but he was also well covered. There's a reason why he was leaping a little too early, and in large part it was because he just was draped at that point. A couple times that the crowd booed a little bit because they wanted a pass interference, but ultimately I thought that the defensive backs had a pretty good showing, considering that there's just a lack of depth there, and I am very curious. But we didn't necessarily see everybody that I wanted to see. Like Mason Curtis was a guy that was in shells by the second half. And there were some other guys I saw that weren't dressed. Hogan Hansen wasn't dressed for this game. Brady Priestcorn wasn't either. You just saw some different guys that were milling about. Listen, I tried to talk to a couple guys to tell them to put on a jersey, go out there and play. Chase Winovich said he was ready to go. Donovan Peoples-Jones said he was, but they didn't do it. So that's disappointing from them. Blake Corum was just milling about. Could have gotten a couple carries, didn't do it. And that actually brings me to my next point, which I think is very cool. And I've seen this at pretty much every spring game, but it's always cool because you see so many guys out there that, whether it's their first time not being in uniform for Michigan, or even if like you saw guys that were around, like just to run down a list of people in my head. Saw one of the Green brothers. I saw Ben Bredesen. He's been kind of a mainstay. There was a little bit of an NFC South rivalry going on the May sideline because Jalen Mayfield was over there as well. Buccaneers, Falcons. You're right. But teammates, but still Buccaneers, Falcons. Blake Corum was here. Even saw some of the guys that transferred out. Amir Kumba and Raheem Anderson and Javier Dunlap up in the stands still cheering on their former teammates. Really cool to see the support as far as that's concerned. But I digress. I just wanted to kind of get that out. It's just really cool to see like Ambry Thomas, Mike B. It's my fellow Netflix star, Mike Barrett. But really cool just to see those guys back. And Andrew Robinson paid me to mention him on the show so that he, whatever. Just so many of these guys. Kenny Allen was in the stands as well. But just to see that the culture is continuing as far as that's concerned. But as far as like what would I look at for this team and say is the strength? It's clearly the defense. I mean, the defense is just there are some places where there could be some issues, of course. And I think that if they get out of being complimentary, because that's where they were last year, right? The offense was not able to sustain any sense of being able to drive, and the defense had to pick up for a lot of that slack, and then special teams wasn't that great either. So it all kinds of falls apart in those moments, right? Not saying the defense was perfect all the way through, right? You had a lot of those situations where they just could not get off the field on third down. I'm based off of what we saw late in the year, I'm pretty confident that that's not going to be an issue. I know each year is different, but I feel like there were a lot of lessons learned. The players got accustomed to Wink and vice versa, and I think that really helped out the defense as it went along. And I think you saw that here in the spring game where it's just the defense really dominated. And that's not surprising because generally you expect the defense to be ahead of the offense. But you also heard like the offensive guys saying definitely some big surprises that we were not able to do some of the things that we expected to be able to do. And that some of those passes we didn't come down with, that type of thing. So it'll be interesting. So what does it mean going forward? Let's talk about it here in just a moment. All right. It's hard to really, like I said, it's hard to really glean much, giving you some individual performances and all of that. I would have liked to have seen Shannon Goodwin had a couple nice catches. There were a couple I felt like he left on the table, and I felt like there were a couple that Bryce just missed on. He's one of those guys. Andrew Marsh, like I said, had had a nice catch, maybe two. I'm trying to remember. He was one of the guys that was back on return and everything. Now, I think a lot of you are going to watch this. If you were not in the stands, you're going to watch this next Sunday, and you're going to feel a bit underwhelmed. And I know that you're going to feel like there's some sunshine blowing here. That's not what's happening here, right? Like I would say, like, you can feel concerned about the offense. Just don't feel that concerned. Because remember a couple things. The split squad scenario makes it difficult in general, right? And, Bryce, you have to keep in mind, these were his first snaps as a Michigan player. So that's in college football, right? Now, understand he's done practice, the biggest crowd he's ever been in front of. So that's kind of going to change the calculus to some degree, especially because a lot of the players he's got accustomed to weren't out there because they were on the other team. Or they were out there and then they ended up sitting because they've already shown what they need to show. I would not be that concerned mostly because some of the people I talked to afterwards showed zero concern about it. Off the record type of deal. Hence no names being mentioned. But there were some that just not that concerned, felt like everything went as well. I even asked Sharon more about it, and he said, we're really looking at individual performances more so in something like this where it's a split squad. So I would feel like, okay, that's fine. Everything's good in terms of that. And we'll, you go from there and see where it goes. But again, the defense doesn't exactly help matters, and I think that that's a place where they obviously shine. I think, though, it's kind of one of those things. You're going to need to be patient with the quarterback, maybe more patient than I have been and have been alluding to. Well, I'm trying not to rear end somebody here. Traffic just went from 60 to 30 really quickly. The fun of doing a show while driving on US 23 of all places, it's absolutely amazing. So that'll wake you up. I think that the offense definitely still needs some work, but still just talking to people, it just sounds like we really like what we've got and we liked what we've seen, and maybe even though it didn't necessarily translate into some kind of crazy amazing spring game fireworks, it's still in a good spot. Defensively, I think that it was top-notch straight away. Obviously, the Mays team would have liked to have had some of that back, but you have to keep in mind with both sides, this was not a Chip Lindsey offense versus a Wink Martindale defense. This was a Chip Lindsey Mays team versus a Chip Lindsey blue team versus a Wink Martindale Mays team. Okay? So we don't really have that many more signs of what this team looks like. That's a big thing. Chip Lindsey not calling the plays, not overseeing things in that way. It's hard to really tell what it is. So that's kind of why I've been cautioning for a while. Don't get too mired into the idea of what you think that you're going to see in this spring game. Now, certainly, it wasn't sharp. It wasn't pretty. But I don't think that it was ever going to be that. I would have liked to have seen some more sharpness from the quarterbacks based off of everything we heard. But it's there's a lot to work on and build upon. And remember that generally, even J.J. McCarthy hasn't looked like some kind of world beater in the spring game. Okay, so but you can see the talent from Bryce Underwood. I think that's evident. And I think that's the most important thing. And look, open road. We all just slammed down our brakes for reasons. I think that there's a lot to build upon, and I'm going to be. I think there's a lot of reasons why you should feel really excited about what this team certainly looks like it can be this year. So. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today. We'll do a rewatch after the broadcast next week, and when we do that, we'll talk a little bit more about what we saw, because again, that's the easier way to really tell what kind of happened when we can actually see it a little bit differently. And we'll have Jake Budd on the show hopefully again this week so that he can talk about what he saw. But that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're watching or listening, especially if you're listening, understand that I am driving in a motor vehicle. I do not have a microphone on. But this is the best way for me to get my thoughts out relatively quickly. And if you're watching and you don't seem to understand that, I can't help you. Because last time we got some comments of like, the audio isn't as good as the other episodes. Well, you should visually be able to see why. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you again soon.